The first cholera pandemic began in Bengal in 1817 and then spread across India by 1820. Hundreds of thousands of Indians and 10,000 British troops died during this pandemic. The disease spread from Southeast Asia to other parts of the world, such as Britain, the United States, and Russia. The first and subsequent pandemics inflicted a heavy toll, spreading all over the world before receding.
By the time it reached Britain, doctors were well aware of what cholera did, yet no one knew how to prevent the development or spread. There were two medical theories related to the spread of disease in the 1830s. One was that disease was transmitted by touch, so doctors wanted to isolate patients. The other theory was the miasmic theory, which taught that disease was spread by bad smells, bad air, or poisonous miasma.
The Industrial Revolution was a major contributor to the spread of cholera. The increased speed and ease of travel allowed by the Revolution, particularly by the opening of the Suez Canal and the invention of the steamboat in 1869, led to a rapid spread of the disease. Not only did the Industrial Revolution accelerate the disbursement of the disease around the world, but it also allowed for increased and devastating outbreaks when it reached Europe. Once in continental Europe, cholera quickly spread along major waterways and later railways. The disease reached the large and quickly growing industrial European cities and rapidly spread with the aid of the crowded and unsanitary housing conditions and unhygienic water sources.
The disease hit Britain in October of 1831, then in London in 1832, with major outbreaks in 1841, 1854, and 1866. During these years of cholera outbreak, 2.5 million people were crammed in one city. There was no infrastructure, no sewage system, or waste management. Sewage and clean water were mixed, and as a result, bacteria survived when the sewage combined with water. While the exact cause of cholera would not be determined for decades, it was clear that cities needed to have clean sources of water. On the other side of the globe, a push was made in New York City to construct what would become a reservoir system, which by the mid-1800s would be supplying the city with safe water. 2 years after the initial outbreak, cholera was reported again, but it did not reach the level of the 1832 epidemic.
Cholera continued to spread on a global scale. By 1831, cholera had infected all of Russia's major cities, despite quarantines and sanitation measures. These defenses were ineffective primarily because cholera victims infected nearby water sources, including creeks, streams, and major rivers. Russian troops carried the disease into Poland in the winter of 1831. By June of that year, it had arrived in Hungary, Austria, and Germany. By April of 1832, cholera had reached Paris.
Symptoms of cholera in the 1800s included severe stomach pains, diarrhea, and vomiting, and it led to death if it was untreated. The disease was spread through unsafe drinking water and poor sanitary conditions. Examples of unsanitary conditions included toilets that were outdoors and were shared by many families living in the same tenement block. In addition, few public washing facilities were available for bathing. Human waste was often situated too close to public wells and triggered complaints from citizens about their drinking water being contaminated.
For most of the 19th century, most scientists believed cholera was not contagious. In 1855, a British doctor named John Snow suggested that cholera is usually transmitted through contaminated drinking water. He came to this conclusion by finding white particles in a water sample from London. In addition to human suffering caused by cholera outbreaks caused panic, disrupted the social and economic structure like businesses, and impeded development in the affected communities. Unjustified panic-induced reactions by other countries included curtailing or restricting travel from countries where a cholera outbreak was occurring or importing restrictions on certain foods. The cholera outbreak in the 1800s killed tens of thousands of people and had major impacts on the global economy.